Alrighty, so let's get into UVing our Recon helmet from the previous series. So first of all, I'm just going to go ahead and hide the helmet, hide the visor, hide the helmet attachment, and then we can just go ahead and very easily shift and select all of our screw pieces, Alt-H, and now we've just got everything, we've just got the helmet element, sorry. And the reason we're doing this is because I want to copy this and paste it into a new project file just so that we don't override all of our modeling project files. It just sort of helps the whole process. If we make any mistakes, we can come back. And so we're going to go Control-C, and if this looks different or confusing for this attributes menu, that's okay. I'll quickly explain this. We'll just go Edit, Preferences, and if you go to your Get Extensions, you can just search for the Copy Attributes menu right here, and just enable that, download it, and then enable it. So download it from your extensions and then enable it here. And I like this. I find it very handy for all of the variety of attributes you're allowed to copy. So once you've done that, we'll just go ahead, copy our objects, Control-N, we'll make a new blend file, we'll delete everything here and we'll paste it in. Now that way, if we notice any modeling mistakes, we can always come back to the original project files and not everything is, constrained by UVs and triangulation and blah, blah, blah. Cool, so I'm just going to bring this in and I'm just going to bring this up above the grid line, so just set it above the x-axis there. I don't know why I recorded the modeling series and you had the grid in the way the whole time. It's kind of annoying, so we'll just move that up. Cool, alrighty, so with that out of the way, let's start to get into UVing this. So I'm just going to go to my UV editing tab. I'm just going to select everything and hit the period key just to isolate my view. And first and foremost, let's go ahead, so just in our UV editing space here, we're going to use the Text Tools add-on. Now, if you don't have this and you haven't followed any of my previous tutorials, that's okay. It's just on this GitHub page, which I'll put down in the description. You just download this .zip here, and then once again, you'll just go to your preferences, go to your add-ons, install from a disk, find that zip file, and then once it's installed, you'll just need to go ahead and enable your text tools. You can just leave all this as is, that's all fine. And then you'll be able to access this panel here. Also, don't worry, I know I've got UV Packmaster here. We won't be using that because I will teach you how to do this all for free without any paid add-ons. I just use that in my own personal work to speed things up because I hate doing UVs personally, but I'll show you how to do it with Blender's tools. It's all good. So let's just go ahead and set this size to 4K, just because that's what we're going to be natively baking to. We can always reduce the size of our textures when we export from Quixel, but we just want higher bakes to work with. And we'll just generate a checker map, which we won't be able to see anything at the moment, but once we start doing some UVing, it'll make more sense what this is doing to preview our texel density. Now, before we continue, we're going to do a little bit of modeling, not much, but I just sort of reviewed this after recording the original modeling series, and I'm not happy with this topology here. It's pretty crap, to be honest. Mainly just because these edges are skewing, and you can see when you've got the subdiv on, you can see this going on, and it just distorts the model. I don't know why I taught that, but it's a very easy fix. So just using our knife tool, we're just going to go cut up from here to here, and then we'll just make another cut here so you can see how we've sort of straightened out those quads. And we'll do another one here, dissolve that edge, and then this edge here we can just alt select, Control X, we can just dissolve it. It's not really doing anything for us. We'll go ahead, we'll hide these faces here, and then back into edge select mode using Control and Alt, we'll select this ring of edges, and then Control, Alt, and Shift, we'll select the other set. We'll use our space operation, and that just cleans up a little bit of our topology there. And that just sort of makes this a little bit nicer. Then the only other thing I want to do is, and this is just more for the normal baking, notice how this angle here, it's very close to being 90 degrees. Normal baking does not like 90-degree angles. I can't remember all the reasons behind it. But it doesn't like it, so what we'll do is we're just going to grab this edge, double tap G, slide it across, then I'm just going to hide it with H, and then double tap G and just slide this back as well. Unhide it. And now it's just, it's not as close to being a 90-degree angle. We'll still probably get some problems in that area, but it's a very minute bit of detail, and I'm not too concerned by it. but that will just help sort of clean some of the shading artifacts up for us. And I think that's all we need to do. Cool. Alright, so let's start unwrapping. I'm not going to bother trying to explain how unwrapping works because I don't fully understand it myself. But the best analogy I've learnt and kind of makes sense in my head is we're trying to cut this object up like you would with a cardboard box, right, to lay it out flat. So I'm going to start by cutting this part out here. So we'll select all of these edges, Control E, and we will mark a seam. And then if we select everything and go U and unwrap angle based, now we can start to see what that checker map is doing. So it's showing us our texel density and how well evenly distributed it is along our model. And at the moment it's utter crap. So we're going to need to keep working on this to cut it up a little bit more so that we can get some better results. So let's continue along. So I kind of want to cut out like the faceplate at the front here. So this area around here. So we'll cut that out. And we're also going to have, this isn't a proper term, this is just the way I coin them, and it will make a little bit more sense the further in we get. But we want unique UVs and mirrored UVs. So unique UVs would be anything like the front here. See how we can see this cross mirrored at both sides? We wouldn't want these to be mirrored on the final version, so we'd want this area to all be its own unique UV space. But something like the side here, like this vent area, we could have that be a mirrored UV because there's going to be little to no chance that we see this vent and this vent in the exact same instance of a render. And even if we can, like, you know, even if I try very hard, you know, we can just see this side and this side. Even if that detail was mirrored, you probably wouldn't pick up on it. So yeah, but it'll make more sense once we get there. So let's just continue to cut this up. So we'll cut up and along here. And I'm just going to cut into the faceplate there. So Control E, mark seam. And I'm not going to do a great job of explaining the rationale behind the UVs. If you do want somebody that explains it really well, I highly recommend checking out Art of Pilgrim. I'll also check his channel in the description. I've watched a lot of his videos explaining it. I probably don't faithfully follow what he suggests, but he explains UVing so well and actually makes it entertaining. I'm sorry if I'm not. It's something I just like to get done and out of the way as quickly and painlessly as possible. And so we're going to make a bit of a weird cut here. You normally try to hide your seams best as possible, and you know this probably isn't well hidden at all. And neither is this one that we're just about to make down the back here either. So I'm going to do it down here like this. But the reason I'm making this cut is because I want to mirror this section of the helmet here so that I can cut down on the amount of texel space that the islands are taking up, but I want the back part of the helmet here to be a unique UV. Once again, this will make a little bit more sense when we get to it. Just trust the process for the time being. I hate saying that in my tutorials because I like being able to show everybody what's going on, but once we get to it, it will make more sense. And so I'm just going to hold down Control to select the shortest path and cut a seam down to there. Also, I have practiced this a few times, so I am instinctually working off of something I've already done and practiced. So sorry if I'm not explaining it that well. Modeling is my speciality, not UVs, as you can probably tell. So this is looking pretty horrendous at the moment, but that's all right. And so what's going on here, I don't really like. So think about it, right? When we apply the mirror modifier, right, this island is going to sort of be like a big sort of circle like this, right? And you might be able to make the argument for the fact that it's like, well, you can just leave it. It's not that bad. In the practice that I've done, I've cut this along this part here just to split the island up. I'll show you here. So we'll go Control E, mark seam, and I'll unwrap it. Oops, did I get? Yeah, I did get everything. Unwrap. And I like this because now I've got this section at the bottom, and this section at the top should be separate as well. Why isn't it? Select seam. There we go. So now I've got two different islands, and it gives me a little bit more range to pack these as opposed to, like, you know, a big circular island that, you know, it's only got like the slit in the middle for where the visor is. So I think this is a more optimal way of doing things. If you are more proficient with UVing, please feel free to do it your own way, and please feel free to let me know you know, where I don't do things properly, because I'm no expert in this and I'm always happy to learn more. So let's do another cut along here, because at the moment this segment is all connected down at the bottom here, and I don't think that's great. So there we go. So now we're starting to get some proper islands going here, right? So like I can select this, and we've got like this island on the helmet. The only problem I have with it is that it's connected to this back part here, and I'd sort of guess, well not guess, but assume the fact that this angle's probably a little bit too steep for these islands to be connected, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut them along there, unwrap. And now I think we've got a better island along here that doesn't have too much change in the angles and edges, so I'm pretty happy to leave that as just one big island. So we've got the tube along the back here, and I definitely think we should cut that out into its own separate entity, or island, sorry, I should use proper terminology, so that we can lay it out into like more of a rectangular UV, just because cylinders are a bit of a pain to UV sometimes. So wherever we can not have them so curved and distorted on our UV sheet, and they're more rectangular, the better, because we can pack more space. So I'm just going to select the perimeter of that cylinder, or the tube shape, mark seam, unwrap, and where has our tube gone? So it's here. But once again, I want to work with this philosophy of the fact that, you know, we'll be able to see the back part of the tube at the same time, so, you know, we don't want to see these mirrored texture details. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in, not half, but just cut it around to separate the back and the sides, so that I can have the sides be mirrored UVs and the back be a unique UV. I've got to find a better term for that, because I don't think it's great. And so we'll unwrap that. And so now I can select the back here, so when we unwrap it, this can all be unique, so to speak. And this part here can be a mirrored UV. And we need to separate this, because this is all quite terrible at the moment. So I am just going to mark this as its own unique island here, just because these angles are quite harsh. I'm just going to go Control E, mark sharp. And then we'll need to cut away, because what have we got going on at the front here? We'll need to cut away the front from the rest of the mesh as well. So I'm going to put a seam in there. And I'll have one run down the front here, so mark seam, unwrap. So this is its own unique island. I know this has probably got some pretty harsh angles on it, but just once again, from the practice I've done, I don't think the normal bake turns out too poorly for that area, so I'm kind of happy to leave it as is. The underside here, we're going to cut this up, and purely because I like to sort of, well, let's just go ahead, I'll select this, so we'll mark a seam here, unwrap. So this island here, right, you're barely ever going to see the underside of the helmet, so I cut it out because we don't need as much texel density in here, right? We're never going to see it, and we don't really need it taking up so much space on our texture space, right? So I normally, and we won't do it now, but just to show you, I normally scale this down a fair bit, just so that we can dedicate more space to the UV islands that you're actually going to see when you do your renders, and have the things that are less important take up less space. And then that's a really, really long UV that I don't like, so let's just go ahead and split that up there. Unwrap. And so I think that looks pretty good. The only problem is this little floater mesh isn't unwrapped properly at all. But this thing's quite easy to do, so I'm just going to make a cut down there and through there. So we'll just go mark seam, unwrap, and that gives us something a little bit better to work with. Because yeah, that should come out as a straight line. Well, we can adjust that to be a straight line later on, and that's just a nice flat UV. And so I think that's pretty good. I think that's roughly what I had on my practice run. And we can see the texel density is pretty nice. So, you know, if we just went ahead, just did a test, Control A, Control P, let's just do a practice pack. So yeah, it packs quite terribly, but I think the texel density looks pretty good. Actually, where's this tube? No, that unwraps nicely, and we'll do some adjustments after we do the other elements as well. Oh, that's what we forgot to unwrap. These little light fixtures here. Because, yeah, that's quite terrible. So let's go ahead, I'm just going to mark a seam on here. And then I'm going to mark another seam just on the inside here because we want to lay circular elements out flat where we can. So mark seam, unwrap, and then I'll just go and try to find this. So that's come out as a nice circle, and this has come out as a rectangle. So that's much easier to pack. Cool, so I think that's everything. I think that's the helmet done. So hopefully that doesn't seem too painful. Sorry if I haven't given the best explanation of why and how I've placed everything. But that should give us a pretty good result. Oh, no, actually, the only thing I forgot is the light fixture at the front, sorry. In what I've done, I've always separated this just because it's a fairly harsh sort of transition around the front here. We probably could leave it, but I think we get better results if we cut it out. So mark seam, unwrap. And then just go ahead and I'll find where this is. Yeah, cool. So you could make the argument I probably should like mark a seam up and around here as well, but I haven't in the past, and I think it's been alright. Another thing we can use to check how decent our UVs are is we can always look at the UV stretch. So we can just enable this. So we want things to be dark blue the best we can. You know, there's a handful of things that start to get a bit lighter, which isn't too bad. I'm not too problematic with that. But, you know, things would definitely be a problem if we're getting more of these, you know, greens and reds and oranges and all that. But I think for the most part, you know, a bit of stretching there, but it's not a big part of it. Most of it's all in the dark blue. There's a bit going on here. What's this? That makes sense, once again, because that's just a bit of a funky angle. We can try to mitigate it, so let's just go ahead. I'm just going to alt select that edge. I'm going to double tap G. I'm just going to sort of push it out a bit. And then I might even grab this and do an edge slide and push that back a bit as well. Just following that logic from earlier where we don't want really harsh angles. Unwrap. So I don't know if that's really changed too much for the UV, but it might help just sort of soften up those really hard edges on the normal bake. So I'm pretty happy with that for the time being, and we'll combine the visor and all of these in as well. The visor is the easiest thing to unwrap because we literally just need to select it, U, and do an unwrap angle based, and it lays itself out nice and perfectly flat. So I am just going to move that out of the UV space, and it will make more sense because we'll need to combine everything together at the end. So I'm just going to move it away because we've got the main part of the helmet all packed into the UV space here. We've got the visor off to the left, and it will just help us manage where everything goes. And let's do the same for this little helmet attachment, and just for the sake of consistency, we can put a checker map on our visor. And this is actually a great example of texel density. So see how we've got much greater texel density on the visor than we do the rest of the helmet. What we need to do is try to make that more even, but there's some very simple tools we can use to get that result to occur. So let's go ahead, let's unwrap the helmet attachment. We'll also chuck a checker map on this. So for starters, let's just go ahead and cut out this circle element. And we can unwrap it. So once again, you can see that this has got a very, very high texel density compared to the helmet, so we'll need to average that out. And I just want to make sure, I'm pretty sure we applied the scales of all these. Yep, they're all sitting at a scale of 1, because I was going to say, I swear we did that in the previous tutorial. Same can't be said for the screws, but that's alright. Okay, let's have a gander. So this one's funky just because it's kind of got the bevels on it. So we'll just try to cut this out by its faces. So it's a bit of a flat face at the front there. And I think we've sort of got the same thing going on at the back. So we'll just go up along there. So Control E, mark seam, unwrap. And then let's cut a seam down this side, Control E, mark seam, and we'll probably just do it up and along the back here as well, because this is like a different shape, so we'll cut it off entirely. So I think that's looking pretty good. And we'll need to separate this. Let's just cut up, Control E, mark seam, unwrap. And I think this is looking pretty good over here. Everything looks relatively flat, which is what we want. I don't really think we need to do too much more. We could possibly mark seams on these edges here. The only problem I have with that is you can get some like overlap with the pixel margins if we do something like that. I think technically that's a better unwrap. Let me just, you could cut this, but I kind of feel like that's a bit unnecessary. I feel like it would help mitigate any overlapping with the pixel bounds. I'm just not going to mark seams on that altogether. I think it, like, I know that probably doesn't look great, there's a bit of stretching. Once again, if you know better than me, please let me know why this would be a frowned upon thing to do. I'm going to leave it like that on the hopes that it should be fine. Cool. And I'm just going to select all these UVs and I'm just going to move them, once again, off this space, just so that we can more easily organize everything when we combine it together. And speaking of, let's go ahead, let's select all these screws, because I'm pretty sure if we tab into edit mode, they all share the exact same UVs, which is very handy. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to get rid of the subdivision surface modifier, I'm going to go Control J and join them all together, and I'm going to apply the mirror modifier. And I'm also going to go Control A and apply the scale, because they are not set properly, so scale. And once again, we'll just tab into edit mode, and I'm just going to move them off the UV sheet, and I'm just going to scale it down because I know it's going to be smaller. We might end up just scattering these randomly, but I prefer to sort of start with them all overlapping, and then later on we can sort of decide if we want to smatter them around the UV space instead. Cool, alrighty, so we've UV'd everything, now we just need to combine it all together and pack it into our UV space here. So let's make more sense of those unique and mirrored UVs that I was talking about earlier, right? So we can do this quite easily with L select. Sorry, I was using this earlier, so I'm just doing select by seams. And let's figure out what should be a unique UV and what should be a mirrored UV. So the top part of the helmet, we can see all of this pretty much at all times. I lost my train of thought. At all times, so we don't want to see these mirrored UV elements. So what we'll do is we're just going to move this off, we'll move it up, just off the UV sheet, and so anything that we move up and off the UV sheet is going to be a unique UV. So that, I'm just going to hide it because we've already dealt with it. The front of the helmet here, so both of these elements and this front part and this, these can all be unique UV elements, so we're just going to move these up. I'm going to say we keep. We'll make this a unique UV element, so we'll just move that up and off. I don't think this needs to be because it's such a small and minute detail. So I'm just going to grab these and hide them just so we know we've already done it. The back part of the helmet here, so both of these and the back part of the tubing here, that will be able to be seen all together at the same time. Keep losing my train of thought, so we can just hide those elements. And then we've got the underside of the helmet. Once again, I'm sort of at the argument of the fact that you're not really going to be doing renders showing the underside of the helmet, so I'm happy for this to be mirrored. And what's going on here? What's this face or edge? Where does this come from? No, unhide everything. Did I accidentally? No, I just forgot to hide some stuff. It's all right. Hide that. Alright, so I'm happy with all of these being mirrored UV elements, which we can just leave down here. And then let's try to figure something out the same for the attachment piece here. Actually, I kind of feel like everything here is going to be a unique UV. The only thing we can probably get away with is just these. So I'm just going to move this off to the side. But all of that, I kind of feel like if you mirror it, it's just going to be too obvious. And it probably doesn't need too much of the texel density. So I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, so we've done that. Sort of separated these up. Now we need to do a little bit more manipulation of the UVs. But first, what I want to do is let's just go ahead and make a new collection. I'm just going to call this backups. And I'm just going to go Shift D, and then I'm going to move this into the backups. And this is just like, our raw model that's now got UVs. They're not structured or ordered, but we've got a save point, right? Just in case anything goes wrong. And good thing I've got the backups because I just screwed something up in my recording, so I'm back to where I started. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's start to just adjust and clean up some of these UVs. So we'll start with the mirrored UVs first, because once we apply the mirror modifier, we won't be able to fix these up quite as easily. So we want to try to keep things as straight as possible or on 90-degree angles, so we don't get aliasing or pixelation in our textures and our bakes. So I think this is a great example to start out with. So we'll just grab this. I'm just going to alt select this inner edge on the left here. So it's the bottom edge on the actual mesh. And just make sure you've hidden everything as well beforehand. So, sorry, the way I did that, I L selected this and then Shift H to isolate the UV island, then just Alt select this edge here. And so if we go S, X, and 0, we can flatten out an edge. And then if we press P, it pins all of the verts. So if I just go to vert select mode, you can see these ones are red because they're pinned. And that means when we unwrap it again, it's not going to move their position. So if I select everything with A, U, and unwrap, notice how we've got a nice straight edge now, so the UV island is a lot more, square, so to speak. And it doesn't take up as much space, and it's a little bit more organised. Probably introduces a bit of stretching and this, that, and the other, but I'm not too concerned about that. So I'm happy with this. I'm just going to go Alt P just to remove the pinning, Alt H, and bring everything else back into play. And same with something like this, this is not important and we are going to scale it down later on, but just this middle part here, I think it's just going to be nicer if it's more flat. So we'll go S, X, 0, P, A, U, and unwrap that. Alt P to get rid of the pins, Alt H, bring everything back into play. And we can do the same at the bottom here as well. We can probably straighten this out. If this results in a whole lot of stretching, then I'll advise against it, but let's just have a look. S, X, 0, P, A, U. So yeah, you can see, this is the bottom, and as I said, we're not really going to see it, so I'm not too concerned about the UVs on this. So if it can sort of take up less space where we don't need it to, then I think that's a win. I'm going to go SY0. I'm just going to see if I can make this completely squared off into a rectangular shape. So I'm just going to go SY0, pin that, and then SX0, pin that, and let's unwrap it, see what happens. That looks catastrophic. So let's see, can I scale that out? So it definitely introduces a bit of stretching, but I think here this is definitely more beneficial to have this sort of more rectangular, even if that does mean we're getting a bit of stretching, because once again, in this instance, this is not a part of the model that we're going to see that much, so I'm going to say that I'm happy with it. If you don't want to do that, by all means, you can leave it as is. This is just my opinion on what I think is going to work, and I'm not an expert. Once again, let's see if we can do this. This is an element that I probably wouldn't want to see too much stretching on, because this is a main sort of focal point, I'd say, of the helmet, but let's just give it a test. So I'm going to go SX0, PAU, unwrap that. I'll just do the same for the backside, SX0, PAU to unwrap. So getting a bit of stretching going on here, but let's just see if I can cap off the other parts. So P to pin those, SY0, definitely not X, P, A, unwrap. So we're definitely getting a bit of stretching going on here. And I feel like I've messed something up because of the triangle that somehow occurred here. So I'm just going to move this down on the y-axis. That's probably not great, but mind you, where it is, it's probably not too much of a concern. I'm pretty sure, hang on, there's a what is it? UV, there's a way to minimize stretch. Minimize stretch, here we go. No, that's not the one I was thinking of. Reduce. No, there's one about stretch. It might be the minimize stretch. No, that didn't work. Minimize stretch. I swear there was one with like a slider. Anyway. There's a fair bit of stretching here as well. You know what, for this one, I'm going to leave it. I think it's probably better off without it, so I'm just going to hold down Control-Z, just undo that. I'm just going to leave it like that because, as I said, this is sort of like a focal point of the mesh, so I don't really want to screw that up. The tubing at the back, definitely not too high priority, so we can definitely try to straighten this out. So I'm just going to go SX0P, AU, and unwrap. SX0P, AU, unwrap. And can I flatten out the top and bottom as well, or is that going to cause problem? SY, sorry, AU, unwrap. Look, it's not the cleanest thing in the world, but I think it should be alright. I might be able to just move this down on the Y maybe, then we'll, no. So that's definitely not good there, but given where it is, I'm not too concerned about it, so I'm just going to leave that as is, because this is definitely an instance where I think the benefit of it being more square is better than the stretching. But please, once again, as I'm saying, if I'm doing anything that really seems quite wrong, please let me know, because I'm not an expert in this and I do want to learn more about this. And then let's do this one here, SX0PAU unwrap. And that one's definitely much nicer. So I'll just Alt-P to get rid of those pins. L, I'm just going to move. So here's why I keep on hiding things, because notice how I'm just trying to move this and it's moving everything else. And so that's why I keep hiding things, but an easy way to circumvent this is just go face select mode, and then we're only selecting faces and not edges and shared vertices. And the only other one that I want to fix up is this one here. SX0P, A unwrap, A unwrap, sorry. And this one definitely I'm just going to square out entirely. So SY0P, SX0P, AU unwrap. Cool. I think there is something to do like spacing operations or something of the sorts to help even out the vert distribution, but I don't. Oh, is it the relax? Is that what I've been thinking about? UV relax? Is that what I'm thinking of? No. There's something. Oops. Anyway, I can't remember. Somebody smarter than me with UVs will probably tell me what I'm doing wrong or the tool I'm looking for. And I'm just going to select everything in Alt-P just because I've still got some pinned UVs and I don't want those. I think this... yeah, we can clean this up as well. So I'm just going to select the outer edge, SX0PAU unwrap. You know what, this is such a small detail, I'm just going to leave that as is. I just don't think it's worth the time to do anything else to that. At least it keeps one edge straight. Cool, alright, so I'm happy with this. I think that's good enough. Cool, so now what we can do is we'll go ahead and we'll apply the mirror modifier, because we've messed around with all of our mirrored UVs. Now we need to worry about our unique UVs. So what we can do is, let's just go ahead, select our unique UVs that we moved off the UV space, and we'll go U, unwrap, and I'll just move these up again. And now, if you notice when we look at our checker, we don't get any repeated UV details. So this looks much nicer, and we won't get any obvious mirrored details when we do our texturing. But by the same token of what we just did, I just want to clean up some of these UVs a little bit, or some of you may be telling me to stop because I'm just destroying the UVs. But for one like this one I'm confident in the fact that this is a good idea. We'll grab the centermost edge, SX0, PAU, and unwrap. And now we've unwrapped it all with the intention of having the centermost edge being completely straight and trying to conform everything else around that to that. Just, once again, reduces aliasing and what have you. And so we can definitely just go ahead and straighten some of these up as well. So I'm just going to select that with Control, scale that to 0, P, AU, unwrap. And I reckon I can get away with doing the bottoms here as well. So scale Y0, P, scale Y0, P, and I might just do the same for this bottom edge, so SX0, P, this one here, SX0, and P, AU, unwrap. Squares it off. It gets a little bit iffy, but I think that should be okay. Alt P, Alt H. I think the middle edges on these are pretty well straight, because if I go SY0, it doesn't do anything, so I'm happy with that, happy with that. We can definitely clean this up. SX0, PAU, unwrap. SX0, PAU, and then I might just do it for the top and bottom. SY0, P, SY0, PAU, unwrap. Cool. So that's definitely introduced some stretching. I can see that clear as day, but once again, I don't think it's going to be of any detriment because it is around these corners here, so it's not highly visible, and I think the payoff for having that as more square is definitely better. And then this will be the last one that we really need to address. So I think the center one's straight, which is cool, so I'll just go SX0, PAU, unwrap. So that's flattened it along there. Maybe I'll try it just on this side, SX0, PAU, unwrap. And I think that works pretty well. I can definitely see like a bit of stretching around the way it's operating and whatever, but I think that should be okay. Alt P, Alt H. Alright, cool. So I think these are just a little bit nice and straighter now, which is cool. And I think I can say I'm pretty happy with that. Cool. So I'm just gonna, no, we'll do the averaging later because it's not really of any importance to do it now. So let's just go ahead and adjust the other one. So the visor's fine. The helmet attachment, we've got to, yeah, we said that this will be the only mirrored element. So I'm just gonna select all of these. U, unwrap. Oh, apply the mirror modifier first would be a handy thing to do. Unwrap. And so now these are all unique UVs. You could make the argument that, oh no, you can't overlap those. Even though they look identical, the normals are a little bit different, so that wouldn't work nicely. You probably could, actually, we can probably mirror these. I reckon we do that. So I'm just gonna spam Control Z a few times. I am going to advocate for the fact that we mirror these as well. Apply the mirror modifier, and I'll just unwrap these. Cool. Alright, I think that's a smarter way of doing things. And we keep those unique. Cool. Just going to move these back out. And then I think, yeah, we already addressed the screws, so that's cool. Alright, so now that we've done that, we can join, I'm going to join the helmet attachment and the helmet together. So select the helmet attachment, shift select the helmet, Control J, join those together. And I'm just going to hide those, and we've already joined the screws together. I think we applied the scale, yep. So I'm just going to select the screws, shift select the helmet, Control J, join all that together. And so now this is just all one coherent mesh. We're not going to join the visor in, well actually no, we can apply the bevel and the weighted normals because we're happy with that. So I'm just going to apply that and that. And we can join that together. We'll address the high poly issue with that in a bit, but not going to worry about that right now. Cool, so now we've got all these joined together. All the scales are nicely set at 1. And so what we can do, and this is awesome, I think this was introduced to Blender a while ago, but I'm so happy it's a feature now. So we can select everything, we can go Control A to average all the UV islands, which is a very handy feature. And what is going on here? What is this? Right, okay, I don't know why that's happened. I'm just going to select the visor, U, unwrap, and hope that that fixed whatever that was. Okay, Control A. Cool, I don't know what just happened there, but anyway. So we can Control A, that's not the new feature, sorry. What we can do, actually let me just test my, oops, I just pinned everything, sorry. Test my knowledge of this. Control P, and we can lock, yeah, we can merge the overlapping islands. Yeah, but they can't, okay, if they overlap at all, it doesn't work, sorry. I just need to undo the averaging. Sorry, I am too accustomed to how, whatchamacallit, the UV pack master works. So what I'm going to do, because we're going to average all these, actually, it would probably help if we scaled this down, then it wouldn't average as stupidly. Yeah, okay, let's scale these down, because it's trying to account for that. Alright. So yeah, we'll scale those down, then it just won't average so stupidly. But I'm just going to space some of these UVs away from each other, just so that they don't start overlapping. And the reason I want to do that is because I only want to make sure that these overlap with their respective UVs. I'm just going to select that, move that away from itself. Well, sorry, not itself, the others. I'm just going to preemptively, oh no, because we're about to average. Sorry, we'll worry about that in a second. Trying to keep a singular train of thought here. Select this, move that away, select this, whoops. Move that away. And I'll just do it for this as well, just to be on the safe side of things. Move that away. Oops. Cool, so now if I go Control A, these all overlap as well, so I'll just need to fly in my face. Just need to correct these. This is why I don't enjoy UV mapping, because it's just so monotonous. It's probably a better way to do it, and it's probably just because I'm not good at it, that's why I don't enjoy it. Alright, now I've moved them all. Control A, don't think we're getting anything overlapping. This is a little bit. And an easy way to check for overlapping, we can just press spacebar to search, or it might be F3, F2, I think it is. No, that's the rename. I think it's F3, but I've rebound it to spacebar. Search for overlap. We'll go select overlap, and we can see what's overlapping. So these we'd expect to, because these are all mirrored UVs, which is cool. This is a bad instance of overlapping though, so we just want to move those away from each other. And actually, I totally forgot, we should, I'm just going to go Shift H, we definitely should straighten these up, so I'm just going to select, we'll just do it one at a time actually. Select the middle, SX0, PAU, unwrap, just flatten that out, and just do the same here. Probably not a big deal, but might as well be consistent with what I've been recommending we do. And Alt P, just to make sure that's all done. Cool, so we just averaged everything, right? So we just did Control A, and you can see the results of that we now have very nice even texel density across the Recon helmet. And now what we can do is we can go Control P, so we can use the island packing that built into Blender. I'm going to change the margin here to be 0.004, because I use a pixel margin of 0.4, which just helps us give a bit of padding and make sure we're not getting any dead space on our UVs. And we want to enable this merge overlapping, which is such an amazing feature that they've natively brought into Blender, because it used to be such a pain to try to do overlapping mirrored UVs. So we'll go ahead and, oh, actually, sorry, no, we won't pack just yet. There's one final thing I want to do. Sorry, we'll select the underside of the helmet here, so this UV island, and I'm just going to go S.5, make it smaller. It does not need to be taking up that much space. Now we can select everything, sorry, Control P, merge overlapping 0.004, and we will pack. And this has given a pretty decent result. I'm happy with it. We can definitely do some, we could definitely move this around a bit. It has actually rotated some of the UVs. Control P. I don't want it to rotate anything. It can scale things, that's fine. But I don't want to rotate anything. And we'll go, let's have a look, let's go concave. So I kind of feel like there's still a lot of dead UV space here. Control P, let's try convex. So it's the interiors, sorry, exteriors. I don't know which one I like better or worse. Look, in all honesty, I'm not too concerned about this. I could spend a long time reorganizing all of this, but I'm just gonna go with that and pretty well call it a day. Because maybe I'll do a second episode and we'll just do it quickly and we'll just organise these. Yeah, okay. Let's call it there because, sorry, this has taken a while. So we've UV unwrapped it. We'll do some organisation of these UVs just to optimise the space. And then in the third part of this, before we get into texturing, we'll do our texture baking. So I'll see you all in the next one.